"Joseph?" she whispered, in a voice hoarse from the screams that had burst out of her moments ago. There was no response. Her eyes frantically searched for him. "Where are you, Joseph?" she exclaimed, ignoring the giggles of the other prisoners. Finally, the door opened. With a loud stride, he descended the steps with the commanding look of a man who knows what he's doing. With his head held high, arms crossed over his chest, he surveyed the occupants of each cell, pausing only at the last one to look at the frail, almost painful girl who clung to the bars on the inside. "Joseph, why am I here?" she asked in a hurried whisper. Joseph stared at the girl for a while, then relaxed and no longer looked as stiff as before. "Ada," he said, reaching up to touch her face. "Can you believe what they're accusing me of?" she asked, suddenly grasping his hand in her small hands and pulling him to her. Her eyes filled with tears. "A witch, isn't she?" the man muttered, and Ada could have sworn she heard a faint resentment in his voice. She watched him pull away longingly. "Quite right. But how ridiculous is that? Me? A witch? I can't believe they say that," she tearfully babbled. "I don't know, but if they're accusing you of such a crime, it must be true," he said, lifting his head slightly, and Ada realized that he said it with confidence. She turned away bitterly. It was very hard to realize that someone who was close to her was so easily agreeing with the accusation. "But do you at least still love me?" she asked, and realized that everything around her was suddenly quieter, and she couldn't hear her own voice. "Of course I do." She watched him walk away. The silence cut into her hearing, and exhausted, she collapsed to her knees. The urge to cry was gone, and her tears seemed to dry up. Her throat was dry, and she felt empty inside. Was this what it felt like to be betrayed? 2 hours later, she was dragged outside, tied to a wooden post, and all the while she stared at the man she still loved. She looked up at the sky and allowed herself to collapse and pretend it was all a dream. Feeling the fire touch her feet, she opened her eyes again and looked at Joseph one last time.